Welcome to another special edition of Daily Airline News. I'm Jeffrey Thomas, and once again, delighted to say, joined by UK aerospace engineer Richard Godfrey. Richard, let's get right into it. Where's Armada?
Armada 7806 is getting closer to the MH370 search area, is less than 200 nautical miles away and on a course of 263.4 degrees at 10.8 knots, so it's making good progress. At the current speed, it will arrive tonight at 23:46 UTC, which is 7:46 tomorrow Perth time. The weather is looking good, but there is a moderate tropical cyclone Yvonne to the northwest, but that's heading away towards Madagascar and
Mhm.
is expected to die out by Thursday. Armada 7806 is heading for the southern end of the MH370 search area, to the southernmost point where they left off 10 days ago. There's still around 20 nautical miles north of Captain Patrick Blely and Jean-Luc Marchand's hotspot, but quite clearly they're working their way south and will soon arrive at that second hotspot.
So tomorrow morning, my time, Perth time, we'll know exactly what they're doing.
Exactly.
Mm. Richard, we've been flooded with questions, which is absolutely fantastic. And here's a sample. Is there any hope?
Uh, well, that's a very good question. I think there is hope that the MH370 search will be successful. I'm mindful of the fact that Ocean Infinity has found a number of wrecks. There were two submarines, San Juan and La Minerve. There were cargo ships like the Grande America and Stella Daisy. And they've also found historic ships like the Endeavour and USS Nevada. So I'm
Mm.
very positive that there is still hope.
Another person, it just says confused. Am I the only one confused by all this? Are they looking for the plane or not? Why would the official story be that the ship is heading to Cape Town? That's a very good point.
Yeah, very good question. I think a lot of us are confused by the conflicting statements between different official sources. Also, the actual track of Armada 7806 is towards the search area and not currently towards Cape Town. Um, so it is difficult, and there's still no signature on an agreement between Ocean Infinity and Malaysia. So, in the absence of any official statement or official statements that are conflicting, I can understand people are confused.
Yeah, and this person's confused too. He simply says they will never find the airplane. It goes beyond their comprehension. Rather negative.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the guy's right because after 11 years, MH370 has still eluded us.
Mm.
And there are a lot of experts and analysts still trying to work out where MH370 might be found, but we still haven't found it. So
No.
it's quite understandable that it might be beyond our comprehension, but I'm still hopeful one day we will find MH370.
Another has asked the question, referring to our video yesterday, might not the unidentified aircraft have been performing a search for the lost aircraft MH370?
I think quite possibly the unidentified aircraft was performing a search. The information of whereabouts would have been available already to the military and to the intelligence services from Inmarsat, so they would have known where to search. And there are several military assets in the area. So we talked yesterday about a P-8 Poseidon aircraft. There are several that were stationed in the area. There's another aircraft called the RC-135, which could have been used, and those could have been supported by KC-135 aircraft tankers. So I'm going to be looking in Whisper right through the search area on the next day, the 8th of March, just to find out what aircraft were to be seen.
Another viewer has asked about EK407 on the 7th of March. Could have that A380 crew sighted MH370 going south?
Yeah, very possibly. We know that the flight that day was delayed an hour and 22 minutes, and it would put the aircraft at waypoint Mutmi just at the right time to observe MH370. So we actually have reached out to the crew and pilots on board EK407 on the 7th of March, and we're still waiting to hear what they might have to say.
Another person, very good question actually. The Armada 7806 looks so small. How long can it be at sea before it needs to refuel?
The endurance of Armada 7806 is 35 days. So if Armada 7806 was going directly to Cape Town, it wouldn't need anywhere near 35 days to get there. So if it went directly, it would be there in another 15 days. So you can see there's still 20 days of time where they could spend in the MH370 search area and continue their search.
And the other thing too, which we're showing you the viewers right now, is there's a lot under the waterline for Armada 7806. It's got quite a deep draft, so there's plenty of room for plenty of fuel on that. Um, Another one asks about debris. Why hasn't more debris washed up ashore? I think that the composite structure is light and would float, and they're absolutely right. You got a comment on that, Richard?
Yeah, well, there has actually been no comprehensive, organized search of all the shores of the coast of Africa and the islands off the coast of Africa, like Madagascar, Mauritius, Réunion. And I mean, there's a huge length of coastline, South Africa, Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, on up to Somalia, and it's literally thousands of kilometers of coast.
Mhm.
If it wasn't for Blaine Gibson,
Yep.
I don't think we would have had nearly as many items. Up until now, we found 43. My guess is that there's several hundred more out there somewhere on a remote sandbank or beach, and maybe meanwhile buried under sand and still, waiting to be found. If there was an organized search, then maybe we'd have found not 43, but 143 by now. Who knows?
It's a shame that the Malaysian government didn't put a bounty on it, and that would have sort of galvanized people. I mean, Blaine did a phenomenal job galvanizing people and making people aware of this was debris from MH370. And I remember one piece he found was being used by a lady as a washing board. So there's a lot more out there, an awful lot more out there. Yeah. Another one's asked us, any chance the Americans were trying to validate, test the Inmarsat data, and referencing the mysterious plane the day after, I take it.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting question because after Air France 447 crashed in the Atlantic, Inmarsat recognized that they had a huge amount of interesting data in their system which could be used. And Air France crashed in 2009, and they set to work with the company in America called Lockheed Martin, who built the satellite. Inmarsat, of course, as the operators of the satellite, have got their own experts. And they, in 2011, upgraded their satellite ground station system to record uh, also the so-called BTO and BFO data,
Mm.
the burst timing offset and burst frequency offset, which give us clues as to the distance an aircraft is from the satellite and the relative speed between the satellite's motion and the aircraft's motion. And I think this was perfected from 2011 onwards, and Inmarsat and Lockheed Martin and other suppliers like Thales in France were well prepared for a new event like Air France 447. And when MH370 came along, they immediately set to work, immediately shared their data. And it is of no surprise to me that the US military and the UK military and the French military knew almost immediately where MH370 might have tracked.
Yeah. Final question, and this is another very interesting one. With a big enough computer, can Whisper track aircraft in almost real time? And the supplementary question is, can Whisper detect stealth aircraft?
Yeah. Um, Whisper can detect any kind of aircraft, whether commercial or military. Um, and with a big enough computer, that can take place in near real time. It's reliant on all of the radio amateurs around the world. There are 3 million of them, many of whom use whisper transmitters and receivers. And there are meanwhile thousands out there who do. So as they submit their data into this WhisperNet database, that could be used in near real time to track aircraft.
Mm. Fascinating stuff, really is. Okay, that's all the time we've got today for your questions. So, Richard, thank you very much indeed for your time. Please subscribe to us. Please like us. Please keep those questions coming. And tomorrow we're going to bring you right up to date with exactly what's happening with the search. Hopefully, it'll be resumed, and we'll have all the details of it for you tomorrow. So, thank you again, Richard.
You're welcome.